Even though it's the NFL offseason, there's a lot of big moves happening. It seems like the Seattle Seahawks Legion of Boom will be no more. They started things off by trading perennial Pro Bowl defensive end Michael Bennett to the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia just continues to get stronger. And there's a lot of reports that Richard Sherman is the next guy to be moved. We saw a variety of his teammates tweet out cryptic messages, like Seattle cornerback Jeremy Lane tweeted, "That text message got my heart hurting. Damn, 25 was my dog. Hashtag what's next." On Instagram, Cam Chancellor posted, quote, "Chancellor of Operations, thanks for the name at Richard Sherman." So obviously Richard Sherman may be on the move. They're also looking at trade offers for Earl Thomas. The Legion of Boom may not be anymore entering this season. They're a division rival of yours. What do we make of everything going on in Seattle?
Well, I mean, I think for one, I think that's just the business side of it. Right. I mean, it's unfortunate, especially when guys get up in age or, they're either coming off injury. Yep. There's always a question mark of are they an expense for us? So, I mean, we understand that. I think those guys understand that. But those guys had a great run.
They did. Sure. Yeah. They did have a great run. They arguably changed the way we look at the defensive back position in the NFL overall in general. Richard Sherman's coming off an Achilles injury. He's 29 years old. He's due to make $11 million in base salary along with a $13.2 million cap hit. We talked a little bit before the camera started rolling. You feel like Sherm should just take a pay cut and stay in Seattle, right?
I mean, yes, but also we know that his hardline stance on things, like he's very much set in his ways, and you have to respect that, for being a man of principle and saying he does what he talks the talk, walks the walk. Yeah. So you expect that Richard Sherman, whatever he says, he's going to do. But that being said, I have a very tough time believing that he can get $11 million. Either definitely not with the Seahawks or anywhere else. Right. I mean, coming off the Achilles injury, that's going to take some time to come back. You've had a guy, both you guys have actually suffered knee injuries. You know how long it takes to come back from a major injury like that. Someone will pay him, but I have a really tough time thinking that he's going to get $11 million on the wrong side of 30 very shortly, coming off from a major injury. And also, real talk, the Legion of Boom wasn't bringing the boom that much last season. So we saw a major come down in the stats and, what the Seahawks have brought to the table defensively from last season compared to where they were the last few seasons. Yeah. And
another caveat of Richard Sherman, he also had his other Achilles cleaned up this offseason as well. So kind of surgery to both Achilles.
That's tough.
As a player, what's your mindset when a team comes to you and say, I want you to take a pay cut?
Well, I think it's always respectful to understand that their side of things, that is fair. But I think a lot of players, they invest a lot, not only into, themselves being a professional athlete, but into the community. So not only do people feel like they should be compensated for the work they do on the field, but they should be compensated for the work they do off the field. But, I think a lot of guys just have a hard stance that this league makes a lot of money, so you want to take a couple $1 million from me? Come on, man.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Listen, maximize your earning potential while you have it, because no other profession you're going to get like $11 million. So maximize your earning potential. But when it comes to situations like this, and a lot of news is being circulated through the media, and you may not hear directly from the organization, you were kind of caught up in that earlier this year where you were going back and forth with fans and posting screen grabs of television stats on Twitter, which I enjoyed. How much of it is just like fake news and just rumors?
Well, I think very little of it is rumors. I think this stuff actually takes place behind closed doors. I think it just leaks out to us. But as a player, you try to stay away from it. You don't want to get too caught up into it. Like you just mentioned, it was at times, I have to catch myself and say, I got to stop. But it's hard as a player because you know how much you invest, you know how much work you put in, you know how much you sacrifice. So, it's definitely tough on a player.
Yeah, because you're human at the end of the day. Right. But yesterday with the whole Seattle Seahawks, Michael Bennett being shipped to Philadelphia, Ian Rappaport mentioned that this was Seattle trying to quiet things, and he took a ton of backlash for the way he phrased things. And there's this growing sentiment that the Seahawks were trading Richard Sherman and Michael Bennett to kind of quiet down the activism. Do we buy that, or what are we thinking?
I don't know. I don't necessarily buy that per se because Seattle is a very progressive, liberal city, and those guys have been out in front. And Pete Carroll's been supporting them with their, with their endeavors. So I kind of have a little bit of a tough time believing that. But at the same time, sometimes, like you just mentioned, where there's smoke, there's fire. So there could be some rumblings in the scenes where they kind of want less attention on the guys for what they're saying off the field. We hope that's not the case. Again, we want these guys to be honest, be open, and be supported by the ownership and the coaching staff for saying what needs to be said. But who knows? The NFL is maybe the most backwards of all the sports leagues when it comes to this stuff. So wouldn't it be shocking? But the most shocking thing to me is that, Seattle's attempting a rebuild, while still trying to be competitive.
Right.
which okay, that works sometimes, but generally, like, maybe a year or two away from getting back to being a legit Super Bowl contender. But you have a franchise quarterback right now that's in his prime.
Right.
You don't really see teams kind of strip it down the way they're doing defensively on one side of the ball when you have a top 10 quarterback who can get you in the playoffs, no problem. So it's a little bit shocking to me that they're doing this, but I don't know, maybe they have some grand plan that's going to work out and make them true contenders in a year or two.
Yeah, with everything kind of going down with the Legion of Boom and seemingly end of an era, what's their legacy at the end of the day? What do you think it is?
Well, I think the legacy will be, obviously the things that they accomplished on the football field first.
Yeah.
I think that they were really the first defensive back group that many guys in the league kind of looked up to, and
right.
a lot of the groups in the league look up to, like, hey, these are the standards. So they definitely set that bar for us, and they did it year after year. And like we were just talking, those guys were very outspoken on different issues. Definitely felt like they, put themselves out there for a lot of times for other players.
Was there anything in particular that you learned from that group that you adapted into your game?
Well, I felt like those guys stuck together, through it all.
Yeah.
I've been able to play against those guys the last 5 years, 2 times a year, and every year they stuck together. Whether it was winning, losing, they stuck together. So,
Sure. I think Seattle's just trying to, you mentioned having a quarterback in their prime. I think they're trying to just reallocate some things and bolster their offensive line, because it looks like you and I started that offensive line.
Yeah, well, all the magic bubble water you can drink is not going to prevent you from getting concussions. So yes, it would behoove the Seahawks to bolster that offensive line, protect Russell Wilson, because ain't much talent after that right now.
You see how he's smiling? He knows lunch.